Hey everybody, this is John from Animal Advocates of South Central Pennsylvania, and I'm going to give you a little history lesson about Pennsylvania Dutch food. Here we go. So Pennsylvania Dutch are German and Swiss who migrated to Pennsylvania in the 17th century. They settled in Lehigh Valley and stretched their way to South Central Pennsylvania, York County, Lancaster County, and Chambersburg. And they even stretched out to Ohio and even down into Maryland. Most of you are familiar with the Amish and Mennonites, but there are different creeds and ethnic groups that are Pennsylvania Dutch as well, such as Roman Catholic, Judaism, Yorker Brethren. There's even Black Dutch and Palatine Pennsylvania Dutch. Now here's where we dive into the fun part, the food. Now most of you probably think Pennsylvania Dutch is strictly eaten by Pennsylvania Dutch folk, which is half true, but there are Pennsylvania Dutch foods that some of you eat every day and probably aren't even aware of it, such as coleslaw, chicken and waffles, angel food cake, sugar cookies, pretzels, and there's tons, which I hope to dive into soon. But today we're diving into one of those foods that are mostly eaten by the Pennsylvania Dutch, and that is Pennsylvania Dutch Potpie, or also known as Potpie. Now most people think of Potpie as a pie crust filled with thick gravy, vegetables like peas, corn, carrots, and some kind of protein. Well, Pennsylvania Dutch Potpie is different. It's more like glorified noodle soup. Traditionally, it is thick dough rolled out into a sheet and then cut into squares and thrown into a stew with either chicken, turkey, or ham. Obviously, this is a vegan version, so I'll be using seitan. Everybody does their Potpie noodles differently. Some use eggs, some use lard, some use vegetable shortening. Today, I am using self-raising dough. Usually, I use some sort of egg replacer or baking soda. My recipe is actually based off of my grandmother's recipe, which she approved of and was even surprised that it was vegan. I'm really glad she liked it before she passed away in 2011. She really thought it resembled hers very closely, so I'm about to dive into this so you can try it for yourselves. Here we go. First off, you want to get your water to a medium boil. Then you want to get a cutting board, or you can use your kitchen counter for prepping and dough kneading. Grab a large mixing bowl. Grab 6 potatoes. If you have baby potatoes, you might want to grab some more. Pull your seitan, tofu, or whatever mock meat you desire. Grab 1 whole onion. Use your favorite chicken seasoning. I use Shanghai chicken broth. My other go-to is Washington's golden broth, which is more accessible. Black pepper, turmeric, parsley if you have it fresh, use it. Garlic powder, onion powder. Pour all of your seasonings into the water. If you're using the Shanghai mix, go easy on it. It's very flavorful and salty. I did 3 scoops. I highly recommend doing 2.5. Add a pinch of turmeric, just enough to add color. Not too much or you will taste it and you don't want that. Give it a good stir. Dice up a carrot or as many carrots as you like. I just used 1. Grab your onion, chop it up. It doesn't matter how you do it. It will all cook down and become translucent. You can also use more 1 onion if you like. Dump the onion in a pot and give it a good stir. I did 3 cups of flour, but honestly I should have did 5 cups. This batch definitely needed more dough in the final product. Shake about a tablespoon of salt into the flour, 2 tablespoons of oil, add a tablespoon of turmeric. Some people add saffron to give it more of a yellow color, and some people use turmeric to give it that color. I went with the turmeric because it's cheaper and more accessible. I also added half a cup of nutritional yeast. It gives it some flavor and some color. Stir the dry ingredients together and add a cup of water to the ingredients. Keep whisking or stirring until it starts to clump up, and then dive in with your hands and begin kneading. As you can see, it's very sticky at first, but that's normal. All you need to do is add flour and it gets less sticky. Try to get as much flour out of the bowl as possible, and then take your dough ball and keep kneading. This whole process takes about 5 minutes or so. Let the dough ball sit for a couple minutes and then proceed to rip the dough ball into smaller balls. Here I made 4 dough balls. Then I pulled out the rolling pin and added flour to it to keep the dough from sticking to it. I did the same thing to the board. Then I grabbed the dough ball and started to roll it out. Everyone kind of does this differently as well. Some folks like their noodles really thick, so they don't roll it out as thin. I like mine somewhere in the middle between thick and thin. The noodles will fatten up when they absorb the broth. If you make them thicker, it'll basically become like chicken and dumplings, which is fine if that's what you're aiming for. This is essentially a hybrid of noodle soup and chicken and dumplings. Now comes the fun part, cutting the dough. Some people use a knife, some use scissors, but the best way to do it is with a pizza cutter. One of my favorite things to do when I was a little kid was help my grandmother cut the dough and drop them into the broth. Doing this brings back so many memories. Once you drop your first noodles in, give it a good stir. You don't want the noodles to sink down to the bottom and get stuck to the bottom of the pan. It could burn them and ruin your entire batch. Trust me, I've done this. After that, go back to your next dough ball and repeat the process until all your balls are done. As you can see, there's no rhyme or reason on how to cut these. I actually love making them different shapes and sizes. It's more fun to eat. Drop the rest of the noodles in and close the lid. Next step is peel your potatoes and dice them up in big chunks. I always add them in near the end of the cooking process because I don't want them to be overly mushy. And then finally, the last main ingredient is the seitan. I always add this last too so they don't get too firm. Wheat gluten tends to absorb whatever liquid it's in and it makes it firmer. This is my homemade seitan I made recently. It came out pretty good, I must say. In the past, I bought store-bought mock meats like Gardein chicken strips or Morningstar, but nothing beats seitan. If you have access to it or you can make it yourself, use it. After you put all of your ingredients into the pot, set it to medium simmer for about 45 minutes. Stir every couple of minutes just to make sure nothing is sticking to the bottom. Once it's done, you're ready to serve. Some people garnish it with parsley or scallions. I'm going with scallions because that's what my grandmother always did. These are homegrown scallions from my friends. They're delicious and a perfect topping for this bowl of pot pie. Pot pie is always better the next day because it all thickens up, but it's still pretty amazing as soon as it comes out of the pot too. There's no wrong answers here. Enjoy!